What if I told you the human story in India goes back way, way further than we ever thought? Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into some absolutely groundbreaking archaeological and genetic evidence that literally shatters the conventional timeline of Indian civilization. We're talking about pushing it back not just by a few thousand years, but by millions of years. We're going to explore this incredible shared history of survival, high intelligence, and a continuous threat of human presence that is completely reframing how we view our collective human history. All right, here's our roadmap. We'll trace this continuous thread through 6 distinct steps. We'll establish a new historical timeline, look at some 1.5 million-year-old tools, examine the Narmada human skull, talk about surviving the massive Toba eruption, analyze Rakhigarhi DNA, and finally tie it all together into an unbroken civilizational line. Let's jump right into part 1, a new historical timeline. To really wrap our heads around the sheer scale of the scientific evidence we're looking at today, we have to map it out. We're starting way back at an unimaginable 1.5 million years ago. From there, we step forward to 300,000 years ago, navigate a massive, apocalyptic crisis 74,000 years ago, and land at the roots of modern society just 5,000 years ago. This chronological journey is the backbone of the evidence we are about to explore. Which brings us to our first major stop. Part 2. 1.5 million-year-old tools. Picture this. By the banks of a small river at a site called Atirampakam, researchers uncovered these incredibly ancient stones. But the crucial detail here isn't just their age. It's actually the layering of the soil itself. As archaeologists dug through the upper layers of this site, they found progressively advanced tools. This is huge because it proves these ancient inhabitants weren't just scraping by and barely surviving 1.5 million years ago. They were actively innovating. They were improving their technology over vast stretches of time. And this wasn't just some local find that stayed under the radar. It made international waves in the prestigious scientific journal Nature. The phrasing they used is super specific. They stated this research actively reframes out-of-Africa models. So what does that mean? It suggests a major paradigm shift. It means crucial human intelligence and technological development were not strictly confined to Africa as the sole starting point, but they were simultaneously thriving and evolving right here in India. Moving along to part 3, the Narmada human skull. Let's fast forward a bit to about 300,000 years ago. A government geologist was just conducting a routine soil survey on the banks of the Narmada River when he accidentally found the upper portion of a human skull. Now, the difference in the data here is absolutely striking. The Narmada skull had a brain capacity of approximately 1,200 cubic centimeters, which, if you're wondering, is remarkably close to the brain size of modern humans today. Compare that to a similar African Neander skull from around the exact same time period, which measured roughly 600 cubic centimeters. That's half the size. It shows that the biological potential and intelligence level in the Indian subcontinent at that specific time was already highly advanced. Next up, Part 4, Surviving the Toba Eruption. All right, we're jumping forward to 74,000 years ago. Enter the Toba volcano in Indonesia. This event is widely recognized as the biggest volcanic explosion in the last 2 million years. It was a true apocalypse. Ash completely blanketed India, blocking the sun for months on end. For decades, the scientific community operated on a very logical assumption that this catastrophic sun-blocking global winter completely wiped out the early human population in India. But did it? Did it actually wipe them out? Well, an excavation at an archaeological site called Jawalpur tells a completely different story. The stratigraphy they found is just mind-blowing. Below a very distinct, thick layer of Thoba volcanic ash, archaeologists found stone tools. And directly above that ash, they found tools made with the exact same technique. You can't argue with that soil sequence. It's undeniable proof that the people in this region didn't just survive the ultimate global winter, but they actually retained their knowledge. They continued their specific tool-making technologies right on through it. Part 5, Rakhigarhi DNA and Continuity. We arrive now at just 5,000 years ago in Rakhigarhi, which is located about 150 kilometers from Delhi. Here, archaeologists discovered ancient skeletons that actually allowed for the extraction of DNA. And this genetic data? Total paradigm shift. It scientifically proved that populations today are direct descendants of the Indus Valley civilization. It also showed that their highly advanced Harappan farming techniques and their famous urban planning were 100% indigenous. They developed it completely locally without any external migration. In fact, the evidence suggests these ancient Indians actually traveled outward, establishing ancient out-of-India trade hubs in places like Iran and Central Asia. And finally, Part 6, an unbroken civilizational line. So let's connect all these dots. We've gone from the 1.5 million-year-old innovating toolmakers in Atiranpakam to the highly developed brain capacity 300,000 years ago by the Narmada River, to surviving a literal global volcanic winter at Jalapuram, straight to the indigenous urban planners of Rakhigarhi just 5,000 years ago. The timeline never broke. The genetic evidence shows us that the DNA of some of the ancient world's greatest urban thinkers still lives within populations today. As we look back over this astonishing 1.5 million-year heritage, it begs the ultimate question. If we've already found all of this, what other incredible chapters of human resilience and intelligence are still buried in the soil, just waiting to be unearthed? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer.